Malolele, this is Pacific Waves from RNZ Pacific. I'm Susanna Suisuki. Coming up,
the criminal networks that we are dealing with, in particular those such as the cartels out of South America.
New Zealand's top cop addresses the drug trade. Also, Papua New Guinea sets to mark its Golden Jubilee. And
the goal was always to push Samoan food forward. I want people to have conversations about Samoan food.
Tala Restaurant receives top honours. The Pacific Islands Chiefs of Police Conference is currently underway in Waitangi. Held annually, the conference brings together Pacific police bosses to exchange information, share learnings and form regional agreements. I spoke with New Zealand Police Commissioner Richard Chambers and began by asking him what issues are being discussed at the conference.
Yeah, te lofa lava, Suna. Look, every year the Pacific chiefs and commissioners come together and we talk about matters that are relevant to all of us in law enforcement. So a range of things are on our agenda for this week, and I have no doubt they'll include transnational organised crime, capability, training, all sorts of things that are relevant to our countries from a safety and security perspective for the region.
I'll get back to you on transnational crime in the Pacific. Now, earlier in the year, you said that with global issues unfolding, New Zealand and the Pacific face similar challenges in policing. What exactly are they?
Well, we do, and it's really the impact of criminal networks across the world, Susanna. You know, they are motivated to target our region because some of the markets that they target are lucrative, and when it comes to narcotics in particular, the influence of South America and parts of Asia, getting through the Pacific, into the Pacific, to Australia, to New Zealand, they're motivated to cause harm, and it's all in aid of profit. So our job in law enforcement, whether it's New Zealand or Pacific nations, is to act and get ahead of that and ensure that we're working together to counter that threat to our countries.
In terms of working together, how's that going so far in combating transnational crime?
Well, it's going really, really well. From my perspective, I've been the Commissioner of New Zealand Police for 8 months now, and I've prioritised the relationship and the partnership that I need to have with my Pacific colleagues. I've spent time up in Fiji, Samoa, the Cook Islands. I'll be soon heading up to Tonga as well, and Niue, and no doubt other nations. So for me, it's about firstly building that trusted relationship with my peers. And during those visits, you know, I get a lot of feedback about the work that New Zealand Police is already doing in the Pacific. You know, whether that's the detective dog programs in countries or it's tactical training, you know, our effort in the Pacific is well received. It's all in aid of supporting our Pacific colleagues, but it's also about protecting our country here in New Zealand as well.
During your visit to the Pacific, were there any concerns about deportation? So this report that came out in 2022, New Zealand deported around 400 criminals to the Pacific, specifically Samoa, Tonga and Fiji, and most often they're seen as exacerbating crime and addiction in the region. Is that something New Zealand Police or the PICP will also look into addressing at this conference?
Look, that has not come up specifically with my peers yet. It may do that. We also here in New Zealand obviously deal with that as a recipient of New Zealand nationals coming back from places like Australia, but at this point in time the Chiefs have not raised that with me.
Do you accept, though, that's a concern?
Well, look, I mean, I understand from the New Zealand perspective the impact that New Zealand nationals returning to our country have on New Zealand, and the reality is they reoffend their reoffending rates. I suspect it's no different for my Pacific colleagues in their own countries, and you know, it may be something that we can talk about, but at this point it hasn't come up in our discussions.
From a New Zealand police perspective, though, do you think it undermines efforts to combat transnational crime in the Pacific?
Well, you know, the criminal networks that we are dealing with, in particular those such as the cartels out of South America, the CJ&G and Sinaloa cartels, who really do control a lot of the cocaine and also methamphetamine trades, also parts of Asia with triads and what have you. So I know that the Pacific commissioners that I work with are very, very focused on what we can do to combat and disrupt a lot of that activity at source in both Asia and South America. So that's where our focus has been. and that's what the commissioners have been asking me for in terms of support.
While I have you with me, Commissioner, there are claims that racism and poor culture within the police in Northland has led to many cops leaving. What do you have to say about that?
No, look, I'm obviously up here in Northland now, and last night I visited some of my colleagues in Kaikoui Police Station. Look, they're a very positive, hard-working team, and whilst there has been references in the media to some messaging from some staff, I know that that's being dealt with by local leadership. I've got a lot of time and respect for Inspector Ricky Few, the area commander, and also the district commander, Matt Surhoy. They're both excellent leaders. Where issues are identified, they will deal with those assertively. That's my expectation. But the vibe that I'm getting from my colleagues across Northland is that they're a positive group of hardworking individuals who just want to focus on policing in the communities up here in Northland.
As Papua New Guinea's Golden Jubilee approaches, academics, judges, civil servants, diplomats and students are this week looking at the last 50 years, the present and the future. Among the speakers is former Bougainville President John Momis, the last man standing from the group that prepared the country's constitution in the early 1970s. Don Wiseman asked our correspondent in PNG, Scott Whitey, what PNG can point to as its most significant achievements over the 50 years and what are the prospects for the next 50.
I think one of the biggest highlights is being able to exist as a country of multiple tribes and 800 languages. That, I guess, is a feat in itself, being able to live in one country without breaking apart as you'd see in other places. And even given that, it has come with a lot of challenges, and we've seen the challenges over and over again, the tribal conflicts that continue to happen, the violence that continues to happen. I guess for me, it's the teething problems of a very, very complex country that's struggling to keep itself united.
Do you think that it's getting worse, or is it as it's been for 20 or 30 years?
It's actually getting worse, and these are problems that can be fixed if there is political will. And two of the biggest issues that we need to solve are the land issues and the law and order issues that we continue to face, because it's a complex country. You can't really apply one application of how to deal with land and law and order. It's not one size fits all. So that has been the challenge of both politicians and provincial police commanders, trying to find that common ground to fix the law and order issues. We've just had several key legislations for lands passed just in the last parliament, and that's targeted at those very issues that I talked about in terms of land management and customary land ownership, customary land protection.
To a large extent, there are the laws in place, there are the institutions, but is the law being enacted?
Yeah, for one thing, the cycle of justice is broken. That needs to be fixed. And it's a huge priority that's been overlooked for 30 years. And we've allowed that to continue. Our jails are overcrowded. The police are struggling to deal with influx of people displaced by tribal conflicts. The population's increasing. So all of that put together has put an enormous amount of strain on the services, the ability of the systems of government to cope. And the other important thing to note is that while laws are being enacted, the implementation, the enforcement of those laws is still very weak. And it's a systematic weakness that needs to be addressed.
As you say, it's very, very complex, the situation facing Papua New Guinea. Do you think the country can get on top of it? What are the next 50 years going to be like?
It needs very strong political leadership. And at the moment, the leadership is weak because the Prime Minister has to manage his own internal politics and keep his numbers. That's our biggest downfall. And that's been the case since independence. Every government that comes in has to maintain political stability within its own ranks before it can even go out and try to do the work that it's supposed to. So going forward, if that particular aspect of governance and political stability can be fixed, then Papua New Guinea will prosper.
Samoan restaurant Tala has been named one of New Zealand's top restaurants, achieving a coveted 3-hat ranking at the 2025 Cuisine Good Food Awards in Auckland. Tala was one of just 6 restaurants from across the country to receive 3 hats in this year's awards, marking a special moment for Samoan food and hospitality. I spoke with Tala's executive chef and owner, Henry Onosemo, and began by asking him what it feels like to receive such recognition.
It feels good. It certainly helps boost morale in the kitchen. But for us, opening Tala was always about pushing, Samoan food forward, especially in this space that we're in. And also, when we created Tala, we wanted to create kind of like a market for the next Samoan restaurant or the next Pacifica restaurant, hopefully a little bit more specific than Pacific, like a Tongan restaurant, Fijian restaurant, in that price range between where we're at and where the night market and the takeaway is at. For us, we're waiting for that thing to happen, and then it will all have been worth it, But it does feel good to be recognized by our peers and by the people that have come in, and by Cuisine magazine.
Yeah, definitely a big recognition there. But it's not your first time though, right? Because you went from a ranking of 2 hats last year to 3 hats, which I understand is a massive deal. Yeah.
I mean, it's great it's a huge deal for Samoan food and where we could take it. I just hope that it does inspire the next Samoan chef, Tongan chef, Fijian chef to really come out and just do their thing. That's basically what we're trying to do anyway. Because now there is a space for that. I feel like now they can, if we can do this, the next people coming up, they can only take it further. Yeah. So we're really excited for that.
Yeah, I mean, what I'm hearing from you, Henry, is that these awards, it's not just for you to increase your status out there, but it's more so trying to inspire the next generation of Pacifica chefs, right?
Absolutely. Yes. If we're not inspiring anybody, it doesn't really mean anything now. The goal was always to push Samoan food forward. I want people to have conversations about Samoan food when they say, "Hey, where are we going to eat tonight?" Now they can say, "Oh, do you want to try this Japanese place? There's a Samoan place," and hopefully, the more light that we get here at Tala, we do hopefully one day inspire that more specific route for young Pacifica chefs to really kind of own in on their background, not just we feel like it's the goal, of course, for us from the beginning was to be Samoan specific and not generically Pacific.
Yeah. Just coming back to your earlier points about how the ultimate goal for you was to differentiate yourself from other Pacific restaurants. But given that there are other Samoan restaurants out there, what makes Tala restaurant different from all those other Samoan restaurants that we're currently seeing in the market?
I think for us, it's we focus more on storytelling. And some of the stories we tell is not the most comfortable if you're in the wrong setting, because, for example, we have a dish on the menu. We call it kapra. Growing up in Samoa, we were called the kamikifai popu, because we collect the coconuts and stuff like that to make kapra. Kapra is the process of making coconut oil by taking out the flesh of the coconut, drying it, and then you smoke it to make coconut oil. But that came about because of that whole kapra industry was created during the German occupation of Samoa. So, during the meal, when we're presenting the dishes, that dish particularly, we're telling the guests, before World War One, Germany occupied the western part of Samoa. At the same time, America occupied the eastern part of Samoa. And then, the most popular industries that they've introduced into the islands were copra, cocoa, and rubber. And so this one is inspired by the copra.
Gosh,
So,
that's such a unique concept.
yeah, so we do have those conversations about our history, our not just enjoying something to eat, but we're not educating, but we're telling stories of the kinds of foods that we grew up eating, and like the evolution of it as well. Because there is traditional Samoan food, but there's also food that I grew up with that has a lot of German influence, Chinese influence, American influence, British influence. So things like that, to the wrong customer too. If you're telling that story the wrong way, it might not go over well. But we do it in a very tasteful way, I should say.
Hey, Henry, I was just wondering, are there any plans to expand on that concept to create another, I guess, tala restaurant in New Zealand or maybe Australia, other international places? What are your plans in the pipeline, man?
I think that would be nice, but I think at the moment we're just trying to focusing in more on being consistent at the restaurant.
Yeah.
We have a huge responsibility to tell a good story, be consistent, and just, trying so hard not to change too much or expand too fast. I feel like the natural inclination for or the natural progression is to, let's focus on expanding. Let's focus on what else can we do. But I think for the next part for us right now is just really refining what we already have instead of trying to maximize on the success. I think for now we just want to look inwards and focus more on being consistent, focus more on refining what we have, and focus more on just not messing up. Because if we mess it up, the people that come behind me are going to have a hard time, doing something if I muck it up for them.
That's Pacific Waves for today. For all episodes, head over to rnz.co.nz/Pacific. We're also on Spotify, Apple and iHeartRadio. From myself and the RNZ Pacific team, tō whā sui fua.